Welcome, everybody, to another episode of AIW's The Card is Going to Change. And, of course, before we get things started, thanks to our sponsors at Pollyanna DIY. They do enamel pins and all sorts of other just kind of fun throwback items in general. So check them out. And of course, thanks to Angelo's Pizza, who keeps us fed here while we record for you and keeps you fed when you purchase their pizza at our AIW live events. Check them out on Madison Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio. And thanks to IndependentWrestling.tv, the streaming service where you can catch all sorts of past and recent AIW shows. Make sure you sign up for that streaming service. Not just AIW, but plenty of other promotions that are out there that are a lot of fun to watch. That's IndependentWrestling.tv. So on this week's episode, we've kind of a little round table sidestep of things, I guess. A lot has happened in the world of independent professional wrestling. You all know it. If you're a listener of this podcast, you're obviously an independent wrestling fan. You've probably paid attention, even if you just paid attention a little bit. The only way to miss everything that's been going on has been probably if you've lived underneath a rock for the last, I don't know, even 3 months. A lot has changed. Would you say, John?
I mean, it hasn't even necessarily just, like, you can't even use the term affecting independent wrestling. Like, it's affecting, like, pro wrestling as a whole is in the process of dramatically changing, as the days go on. I mean, even as we record this, you know what I mean? So much has probably changed in the, the in-between time right now.
I guess I should say, joining us, of course, the Duke, Dominic Guarini chiming in, potentially worldwide if he walks back in this door. As always, AIW owner John Thorne, and my name is Steve Guy, your moderator of sorts. But I mean, even before we started recording this episode, we were talking about people. The big thing that's happening right now, more exclusive contracts than ever before. Does that sound accurate?
Well, I mean, not from ever before, because I mean, this is similar to, I guess, the wrestling boom of the 90s, or at least it's being anticipated to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot is really still unknown about what the impact of everything is going to be with the launch of this AEW company. Because there's just a lot of speculation and a lot of rumors, and it's going to be this and it's going to be that. And the thing that, we do know is people are signing contracts.
Right.
When they become exclusive, if they become exclusive, I assume that they're becoming exclusive, unless, it's some sort of special sort of situation. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now, I think, for specifically independent wrestling promoters.
Right.
There's a lot of uncertainty. Not only just me, just every independent wrestling promoter right now is kind of just sitting in, it's like it's like Saved by the Bell. Like, it's like freeze. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're just sitting there watching, waiting for the world to start moving again. You know what I mean? You're trying to analyze everything.
And even if these contracts aren't exclusive, there's still contracts. People are contractually obligated to something. Like Ethan Page is a guy he's under contract to Impact Wrestling. So they tugged on, that contractual obligation, and he had to go to Mexico as opposed to us. So things like that impact the independent bookers as well, right?
And I mean, there's been situations like this over the years, when Ring of Honor first started doing contracts and stuff like that. Like now, like if somebody's in Ring of Honor, you could basically assume that you can't book them anymore because they're signing the majority of their talent to exclusive contracts. Like when it first started, it was a lot like, I guess right now, the MLW contracts are kind of similar to that, to where it was just kind of like booking contracts. You know what I mean? And you're signing this contract, you're getting X amount for every one of your bookings, and we get first kind of dibs on your bookings and can pull you off of bookings and things like that. Like that's kind of how this started. I don't know how many years ago that was. I don't know, like 6-7 years ago. and then, same thing with TNA, where like TNA has gone back and forth, or Impact now, like you used to be able to book them to the office, then they couldn't do indies. Now they can do indies. This thing is kind of, and Evolve did that, and there's been other, contract things to where it was mainly it wasn't like exclusive situations. It was like, hey, if we decide to run a show, you have to do our show. In which that's something that we've dealt with numerous times over the years with, Evolve just randomly popping up a show on, X amount of weeks notice, and, then they got to pull people off, or, Ring of Honor has pulled people off of our shows before. So that's really not new, but what's making this new is the possibility of this exclusivity.
Yeah.
Well, I think the difference is probably there's so much more money involved right now, because back in the day when you say, oh, they might pull somebody from a show if they have a show, but if not, you can go work for them, because the company didn't have the power to say you're not going to go work for them because I'm going to pay you this money, and if you do, we're going to pull your contract. Well, and the people needed to eat, so they were like, well, we got to go wherever we can make money. Now there's these new people have so much money that I don't think it makes a difference to them. They're just like, look, you're going to work for us or you're not, and we're going to guarantee you money that's going to be more than you're going to make anywhere else.
Right.
And if you say, I want to go work here this weekend, we'll just say, no, you can't, because you work for us now. And I think there's a bit of a power shift just because of all the money that's involved.
Well, and so that has some some valid points in there, but I think what is really hard to I guess for people to understand, especially maybe newer fans or newer just newer even independent wrestlers, is they weren't around for the the Attitude Era, the wrestling boom of the night. You know what I mean? Where all these companies and everybody's a star, and there's a lot of money going around, and like independent wrestling wasn't really something that you really heard about too much in those days. To where now the independent wrestling's kind of had this rise over the last few years, and now people with money,
they're recognizing the talent is there. And now they have the resources to couple with the talent, so they're going to take a run for it and see if they can make it work.
And what the thing about it is like the independent wrestling has been rising and things like that, and people have been developing their own followings and their own fan bases and stuff, and WWE has gotten aggressive with signing independent wrestlers over the last, I don't know, what would you say, 4 or 5 years specifically?
Yeah, more so.
And now what's happening is they're with this new thing is WWE is going to get more aggressive, so they're getting aggressive. So now Ring of Honor has to get aggressive. You know what I mean? And then there's these other companies, kind of like MLW and Impact, that are kind of there for what's left over. So I guess the true impact of this whole thing is going to be, it's yet to be determined.
Do you think that there's, to that point, because a lot of these guys have made a name for themselves, and some of these companies are coming up with TV deals, and those are yet to really truly be seen. It's just kind of been talked about. But is there an advantage to allowing these guys to stay on the independents, to kind of, just from an audience standpoint, if people don't necessarily know where all these things are on TV yet, but the guy's making a name, like, oh wow, now I want to watch this guy on TV.
But Steve,
every week,
if you're that guy,
yeah.
And somebody comes to you and says, we want to sign you to an exclusive contract that's more money than you've seen for a while, no one in their right mind is going to say, you know what, I'm not ready yet.
Right.
Come back to me in a year. I'm going to do these couple things and I'm going to get better.
I think what he was trying to say was, is there an advantage to them going out and marketing themselves to these niche fan bases?
To not have a non.
There's an advantage to them if they're not ready and they go out there and they fall on their face.
Well,
no,
and rather than having an exclusive contract.
I think he's saying it from like a marketing sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this guy is out kind of flying the flag. All these guys are flying the flag for the brand all over the country, or all over the world.
Well, you have to weigh that.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
As a person, you have to objectively look at it and say, where am I going to make the most money? Where am I going to maximize?
No.
Whatever else.
He's saying
about for the brand.
He's saying
for the company.
He's saying as an AEW talent, is there an advantage to allowing them to go out and wrestle the independents every weekend and promote the brand?
No, there isn't.
And that's I see both sides, but if I am the money guy, I'm saying no, because if you get hurt and you can't do my television show,
if they get hurt, do a television show. If they see them at wherever if we pull somebody in and they see them on one of our shows, then they don't have to DVR AEW because I just saw this dude. If AEW ever comes to Cleveland, you might not buy a ticket because you're going to see him somewhere else. I mean, I wouldn't think so.
And that's what nobody knows right now. There's so much uncertainty of what's going to happen, and I understand the mindset of the independent wrestling fan that it's like, oh, they could do it, it's no big deal, you know what I mean? Like, but if you're giving these guys who are at most have been making a couple $100 a night, and you're putting the numbers that are rumored, you know what I mean? Like, everybody can look around and see the rumored numbers. I'm not going to say them, but it's a lot of money that is being talked about. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't expect a guy to pass that money up, but at the same time, you can't be mad when a guy is. It's like he's buying, and he's buying investments.
But okay, from a business perspective, that's really what you're doing. You're saying, you're basically saying you have, and I'm just spitballing here, but the Khan guy from AEW, he has X amount of dollars with which to buy talent. Okay, and he's going to say, okay, I'm going to divvy up the talent, the money based on this. I know, barring some ridiculous injury or ridiculous happening, these guys are going to make me money, and these guys are going to get eyes to the product. These other guys, I'm going to take a flyer on them. We're going to see what happens. Maybe we can turn them into something. If not, they're getting downside money probably. It's the money's already gone because they've already allocated it to that. Okay, they've already said this is what we're going to spend, and they're going to take a chance and try to. I mean, that's what WWE does. They sign all these people. Everybody that gets signed doesn't leave NXT and get called up. A lot of them get released because they just took a shot and it didn't work.
Well, and that's a thing that I feel is going to change. I feel the days of the releases are done. You know what I mean? I think WWE is just going to sit and pay assets, just because.
But to that point, if, again, and if going back to the business side of it, if you don't think you can get anything out of an asset, and I know we're talking about people like they're things, but they're not. But I mean, if you invested an asset and you have it for 3 years and it's in your developmental system, and for whatever reason you just can't get anything out of it, there's no advantage to you paying it more, continuing to pay it, rather than letting it go somewhere else and maybe they can make something out of it. That's not good business.
But I mean, if you're paying somebody like, a drop in the bucket for $1 billion company,
I understand that.
For them not to like elevate other places besides your thing.
To his point about releases or a thing in the past, multiply that drop in the bucket by 50, 75, whatever you're doing. Because they're going to have performance centers. They're going to have 30 performance centers all over the world. So they're going to have a gazillion people in development.
I mean, they've been like running like, until like maybe a year or two ago, they've been running NXT at a loss. I think they're ready to like keep on doing it, especially with like a new company popping off.
If they can, if it's all, Vince McMahon is not stupid. It's all about return on investment. The whole reason they're investing in all these things is because they think the return is greater than the investment they're laying out.
But you don't think
they are not going to?
You don't think they're investing these things to prevent somebody else from gaining traction and getting a return?
That's part of it. That's why they were calling up all or signing up all the people before. This is a different animal now. You have somebody that probably has more money available than Vince McMahon,
For example,
who is going to do, because this family owns a professional football team and a Premier League soccer team, both of which are probably worth close to $1 billion apiece.
The rumor net worth.
Those are just the two things.
But I'm saying
there's more than that.
The rumored net worth is around $6 or $7 billion,
which is 3 or 4 times what because McMahon's not a billionaire anymore, right?
I think he's worth one. Yeah, I think
is he
one.
okay?
the stock market being as shady as it is?
It's not the Ted Turner thing where I want to beat him. There's egos.
I think they want to beat him.
I think they want to put on a good product and they want to show that they don't have to go there to have a good wrestling show. But you don't make $6 billion or $1 billion by pissing money away.
But we're not saying that they're the guys that are gonna piss money away. More so, I think where Thorne was getting at is you're not going to see any releases come from the WWE anytime soon, because why are they going to take guys that they cultivated into their system and let them go elsewhere?
But that's the point. If they realize if they have a guy under contract for a year or 2 years, and for whatever reason it just ain't working. Whatever they try, whatever they do, he's learning how to wrestle. He's learning how to win, but he's just not connecting. He's not with their fan base.
But that's not what
who we're talking about.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they just don't have the time to get every single person that they sign over, even if they are capable of it, because they don't have enough television time and enough. You know what I'm saying? Like
not enough resources.
But then they'll either develop more resources to accentuate the talent, or you're just at that point you're having people so somebody else doesn't have people. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, you already saw precedent of this with Neville / Pac.
Sure,
I mean, that just happened.
Now you're paying guys and girls that you think are good, that you potentially. Your only reason you're not using them is because you don't have room. You're still pissing money away.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the WWE at this point. You know, like this has been the closest that they've had to competition in 20 years, and they were doing this practice when it was just Ring of Honor. You know what I mean? Like this thing kind of came out of nowhere at them. You know, but before we continue this debate, my point is passionate as independent wrestling fans are, and they don't understand. The bottom line is no independent wrestling company is going to be able to compete with any offer from any of these companies. You can't compete. Ring of Honor is offering 6-figure deals. You know, this AEW thing is offering 6-figure deals. You know, you're hearing the NXT offers are going up to 6 figures. You know, so it's like it's great for the wrestlers. And it's kind of at a weird position right now for the independent wrestling promoters. And, you know, like I said, we don't know what's happening, you know, what has happened in between when we're recording this. You know, there's rumors of, you know, Ring of Honor wanting to sign more AIW guys, you know, and it's like, you can't, there's nothing that we can do about it really, except for, wait and see and kind of wait for the dust to settle. But you know, I don't think the dust is going to settle for a while, and it's not going to be like the days like, you know, now if like, you know, if you remember like when Samoa Joe left TNA and like we were able to book him twice before, you know, he went to WWE. Now I don't know if you're getting that indie tour anymore, you know what I mean? Because it's going to be okay, I'm done.
Well, that depends on the guy. I mean, that depends on because I'm sure
the guy and the
Samoa Joe didn't have
to
to do that. Well, if there's 90-day clauses or whatever else, or it might say,
but now you know,
can't go to a major company or whatever.
If you guys remember when we booked Neil Dashwood, that was the first time that they enforced the 90-day clause on an independent booking. You know, so like if they're enforcing that 90-day
No, I thought
clause,
they had done that before.
No.
and then they just let it go. They said don't worry about
they
it.
never enforced it on indies. They only enforced it on television. So you couldn't go to Ring of Honor, you couldn't go to Impact, but
It wasn't like the Impact rule where like anything that went to DVD or
no, nothing. You couldn't do anything. But when Colt Cabana got fired, he did PWG like the next day. Like you used to be able to start your independent bookings immediately.
it's also from back when like WWE was not giving a shit about the indies. So,
but I'm just saying. So now they do give a shit about the indies, and they give a shit about all this other stuff. So you got your 90-day clause, and they say you can't do any independents. Well, then if this thing gets a big cable television show, and you know what I mean, like maybe you're not doing an independent, maybe you're just waiting your 90 days, and then you're showing up on this new television show.
Yeah, sure.
And the indies are gonna, you know what I mean, like it's gonna get kind of skipped over of a lot of these big modern stars. I feel.
No, you're in a position, and people like you are in a position where they're just going to have to wait. They're going to have to wait and see what happens. And I would suspect you'd have a better answer by September, when there I think you get some stability in rosters and things like that.
Right, and I mean we're in the first month of 2019.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's a long wait right now.
all I know is this is all reminding me of an interview. It was an old interview with Kid Cash that I heard years and years and years ago, and he was talking about when I think it was like mid 2000s, like when he was in TNA and like WWE came calling, and he wanted out of his TNA contract, and they wouldn't give it to him, and they wouldn't give it to him, and it was going on and on and on. So then he just basically called up a bunch of dirt sheets and like went on MySpace or whatever and was like, Jerry Jarrett tried to fucking sexually molest me, blah blah blah, and he got a call from Jerry Jarrett the next day, and it was like, you want your release? And he's like, yep, and he's like, you got it yesterday. So food for thought for anyone under contract.
I think those days are gone, man.
The other side of this too is, we talked about exclusive contracts, but should somebody get a non-exclusive contract, how does that impact the independent promoter in terms of, now has their fee gone up?
Oh,
because obviously that promotion
absolutely.
wants a booking fee.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily just because they're on TV, but because that promotion wants, money for essentially
And also
lending
this
them
guy
out.
that's like on a TV deal fucking is taking a risk doing non-TV shit.
Right.
And well, Thorne, and like from your end, as a promoter, are you scared to book that guy because out of nowhere, then all of a sudden maybe they have some kind of weird commitment that they have to fulfill for their contract?
And that's
Yeah.
that's what's so unknown. It's like, oh, okay, maybe they're gonna allow it's what's called third party bookings, which even through the 90s, WWF would allow third party bookings. And WC, like you would hear like Mick, like I think in his book Mick Foley like did an indie shot in Ohio when he was like the world heavyweight champion, and then went to the pay-per-view the next day. Like guys used to be able to book people out. I forget the story on exactly what stopped it. But you used to be able to, like, when I was like 15, I would call like WWF headquarters and like I think I got on the phone with maybe Kevin Kelly or something. And I think that you could book Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy for like $1,500 in like 1999. Obviously that's not a thing that they do anymore, and they phased it out.
Somebody probably got hurt, or somebody didn't make
I think
it to
somebody
a show
I
or
think
something.
I think somebody did get hurt, like Tiger Ali Singh or something got hurt. Somebody that's like really knowledgeable and has a better memory than me is going to have to look into this for me, but so that's what I'm saying though. Like, say AEW allows third party bookings, say WWE allows third party bookings, then you're banking your whole show on, this guy is coming, and then they pull him, and it's just like we've seen it with TNA in the past. It's like they pull somebody and they're gonna offer you somebody that you don't want, that they, you know what I mean, like that they're just trying to get work.
Do you think that because there are so many of these promotions starting to come out, and we hear about the rumored TV deals, that is going to help things a little bit, because they're going to have more of an actual schedule and calendar to work by? You know what I mean? Because now you're competing with all these other promotions.
Well, I
naturally,
mean,
If you can't use the talent, it doesn't really matter.
right. I mean,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
but I mean,
like
if we're talking non-exclusive,
like say
people.
AEW is gonna run Cleveland maybe once a year, if ever. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think that matters. I'm going under the assumption, unless I hear otherwise, that anybody that's signing with AEW is off the table sooner rather than later. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you have to assume that they're off the table, and then, you know, Ring of Honor is a whole different animal. We saw, you know, like PCO goes exclusive
Yeah.
at the end of last year, cancels every booking but, you know, Game Changer or whatever that weekend.
And you still have guys going overseas to New Japan.
Well, that's a whole different animal. Like, a lot of these exclusive deals outside of WWE, they're exclusive only in the United States. You
Interesting.
could do bookings in Canada, you can do bookings in Europe, you can do bookings in Japan. It's only exclusive. Like I can't book Ring of Honor guys, but if I had a promotion in the UK or anywhere else in the fucking world, I could book Jay Lethal right now. You know what I mean? Like, you can book any of these guys internationally as long as they don't have a date with Ring of Honor.
And now,
And I assume that maybe AEW is going to continue that. You don't know, you know, like I said, there's a lot of unknown. Like, nobody knows what's going on with the New Japan deal. Nobody knows what's going on with everything else. So,
well, yeah, because it'll be interesting to see, you know, when we talk about bringing in overseas talent. Well, now you have NXT UK, which throws a whole other wrench into this equation.
well, that's more to
but you know what I mean?
you know,
it's taking guys, you know,
that's
it's still unknown how.
I feel that's more for WWE to get a foothold on a country that was really gaining momentum with
Yeah.
its independent wrestling. WWE has gone in and signed up the majority of the talent. You know what I mean? And it's like, let's see what happens to the independent promotions. You know,
Right.
like that they're affiliated with or whatever. I mean, there's so much what ifs going on, but you know, the thing that kind of sucks is okay, like, this is great for a lot of the wrestlers, especially anybody that has any sort of remote buzz. There's gonna probably be some sort of offer on the table, but for the promoters, it's like there's no end game if you're an independent wrestling promoter. There's no like, I'm gonna go get signed to do this job here, or you know what I mean? Or, you know, this guy's going to, you know, get hired to go, you know, do this over here. So it's like we're all kind of at a standstill because there's no advancement for any of us, and there's no way that we know what to do with any of our companies right now, because it's like even the WrestleMania card, you know, I've rebooked it.
I was just going to say, you're a promoter. Where do we go?
I've rebooked it 100. I've rebooked it 100 times, and I've erased the whole thing except for the 2 matches that are announced right now, because it's like, who knows what the fuck is going to be, what's going to happen by April? You know, you're already seeing the war of the contracts happening. As you know, a few weeks ago, you saw Ring of Honor come in and sign Rush to an exclusive deal, so he gets pulled off of MLW, and you know, there's going to be. You know, MLW has people signed, and you know, they want guys to report at their show at a certain time, so they've been pulled off of indie bookings that weekend, and you know, the contract stuff is getting really complicated, and I think it's going to get even more complicated as you know, as we go on and get closer to this pending television announcement and deal that AEW supposedly has.
Well, and you know, you're speaking just obviously as the AIW promoter, but what you're speaking to is something for all of the promoters at WrestleMania weekend. That's not just an AIW issue. That's
I mean, it's an everybody issue depending on who you have booked
yeah.
on your show. You know, I know for a fact that some guys have booked some international talents, and you know, they've gotten emails that said, "Oh, they've bought the flights and everything," and you know, they've got emails in the last few weeks that said, "Oh, hold off, he might be out," you know, and like, or she might be out, because, as I said, you know, with AEW coming into the picture, WWE is getting way more aggressive with signings. And I know that Duke debated this, but I think they're trying to sign assets and figure it out later, so they don't get them first.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying once they figure out they can't do anything with them.
Yeah, but I mean, if they
But
could,
I mean, it's good for wrestlers now that have any kind, as he said, any kind of buzz behind them. It's also good for wrestlers that have no buzz behind them because now somebody's going to have to fill the independent dates. So,
but that is my fear. So here's my fear on that. It's like people have gotten signed at such a rapid rate that there has been no real chance to bring up the next set of guys. Like, you know, there was always it was always kind of a gradual ascent, you know, and people got signed up so quick that like it's like independent wrestling doesn't have that middle class of talent anymore. It's like guys that you know and they're on everything and a bunch of other guys.
no, because the business, the evolution of the business has been sped up by $6 billion
it
net
seems
worth.
like
I mean, you know, it's accelerated the entire process.
you had that initial NXT boom, I feel like, where a bunch of guys got signed up, and then that was great. They put them on main roster, and like, man, now we're going to grab all these other guys. And everybody was kind of like, well, what do we have now in the independents? In the last really 3-4 years, names again been built up, and now you've got multiple promotions who are just like, well, we'll just take everybody.
And it's like, so now, you know, not only is my fear like you can't book like a big premium talent to come in, you know, like when we were able to book the Young Bucks, you know what I mean? Like it'd pop a draw, or like when Kevin Steen, like he'd always put the draw up, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know, Colt Cabana puts the draw up, you know, like different guys. But now if it's like, if all those guys are gone, it's like, who's that guy that everyone's going to want to see? And there's going to be so much free content available to the wrestling fans.
That's what I was going to say there, yeah.
Who knows if they're going to want to
Come to a show.
buy a DVD or come to an indie show to see a bunch of local wrestlers trying to figure out what the fuck they can do to be good, you know?
Not even about the local wrestlers, but now if I'm a huge wrestling fan and I'm subscribed to the network, and let's say AEW is probably going to have a streaming service, so now I'm watching that content. I want to keep up with my.
I don't think they're gonna have the streaming service, but they're probably gonna.
They're at least going to be on.
They're getting a library yet.
We think they're at least going to be on TV.
Yeah, they don't have a library to
That's
stream.
true.
But they're gonna get a big TV deal, and cable TV is free. You know what I mean? It's not free, but it's free.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But you're DVRing. My point is, you're going to watch, if you're somebody that constantly watches WWE and plus their whatever they have on the network, you know, now you want to watch AEW, you want to watch Ring of Honor. If you're in a place that gets it, you
Can watch
have access to
MLW.
TV and you can
watch Impact on Twitch.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that I could just sit at home and watch, some of which I'm already paying for through cable or streaming service. You know, I feel like that can become a big fear. We're like, well, why? Why do I even leave my house?
That's a huge fear. Is, are people gonna be there for the independents once there's all this stuff and all your favorite guys from the independents are on television or on it? You know, they're available to you without having to leave your house. And if you're in indie, you can't book those guys anymore to get the, I want to go see that guy live, or I want to meet that guy.
Seeing them live, we haven't even talked about the possibility of these promotions touring.
Well, I'm sure they're going to tour, but
you know what I mean? Like
WWE tours, you know, like.
Well, yeah, but WWE tours, but now you're talking about WWE touring, AEW touring. If Impact decides, well, wait, we want to keep up.
I think
tour.
Unfortunately, I think Impact is going to be the big. They're going to be the big loser in this whole thing. Like Impact and MLW probably have the most to. They have more to lose than the independents because, like, I don't have millions of dollars involved. I think that, you know, AEW and the WWE stuff is enough as it is to keep people's attention spans. If you can't book these guys, and then so we've been doing a lot with legends the last couple of years. Well, how many big stars has the WWE made in the last 20 years? Like, there's such a gap in, like,
you're not booking
you got to book somebody like from the Attitude Era or earlier, or it's like nothing. A lot of those guys are going to be dead pretty soon. You know, there's not too many of them left as it is. It's there's a big fear in what if, like, how are the independents going to be able to sustain such a talent rate?
Going back to the 90s when you have WWE and WCW I mean, I'll be honest. I was a guy that I didn't have the internet at home, so it's not like I really knew about the independents much. But was that I guess was that an advantage because people weren't getting all of the content there? So independents were able to kind of have a good life.
Well, I mean, I was around independence in the late '90s, and
yeah,
it was. You got to think like in the late '90s. Okay, Tito Santana was probably 40. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, so he was hitting the circuit all the time. You know what I mean? And all those guys, like Honky Tonk Man wasn't that old. All those '80s guys were booked everywhere, all over the world, every single weekend, 3 times a weekend, drawing people in because they were. That's going back to what I said. WWE hasn't really made a star in 20 years that you could book on an indie.
yeah.
So, there was an advantage there for that. On top of, when wrestling was hot, there wasn't also all this technology. Like, you had to watch it on Monday or you had to set a VCR. Like it was a lot more complicated.
Or you could go to a live show.
So when an indie in the late 90s, you could just have wrestling on the marquee or whatever, and you're getting 300, 400, 500 people,
And people were interested.
showing up just for locals and some random legend there. Now with all the technology, I don't know if people are coming out for it or not. There's a lot. It's like a big wait and see. Are people going to be that motivated that can see all this wrestling all over the world? Are they going to be that motivated to come see the local guys fucking, hook them up?
Well, the replacements have to come from somewhere.
I was gonna say, does it help you or give you some positive feeling knowing you've created the AIW Academy and we're working to be on the forefront
I'm
of
not
that.
going anywhere.
Before we even knew that this was going to happen, we kind of tried to get out.
Well,
in front of that.
the whole point of this was trying to get ahead of the NXT roster raids. Now nobody could have predicted a potential WCW level company, what
Yeah.
I mean, popping up and all this other stuff happening. But as good as the AIW Academy has been doing, a big proponent or whatever, a big reason is the ability is you take a guy that is doing well or learning well, and then you throw him in there with an Eddie Kingston, or you throw him in there with a BJ Whitmer, or you throw him in there with these veterans, and then like a Zack Sabre Jr., and then it helps them learn. You know what I mean? It's like a.
So now they're really.
But if they're all those veteran type of guys that are eaten up, it's like.
Now they're just having matches with each other.
Right. It's going to be that's a big concern. It's like you only learn so much at wrestling school, and then you learn from the veterans in the locker room and wrestling with them and stuff like that. So it's like what happens to the industry as a whole there? You know what I mean? Like
It's hard to have growth if you're having the same match with the same guy all
like
the time.
that's cool that Chris Hero can go and wrestle at Evolve and wrestle Evolve guys, but like
Sure.
what are they booking 10 guys, you know what I mean, like 10 independent guys on a show, so it's like he can't wrestle them all, so it's like there's gonna be something is gonna have to give to be able to help drive the industry forward.
With a surge in the wrestling industry and potentially a surge in the interest in it, you're going to have this whole group and generation of kids kind of growing up again and beyond and on. Oh, yeah, I want to be a pro wrestler, or a kid who's 17 is going to turn 18. Like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And you could have a surge in.
But that surge isn't going to pay
sign-ups.
off for like
And that's what I'm
5
saying.
to 10 to 15 years.
You're still stuck. Even if let's say you had 30 signups for the AIW Academy, 6 months from now, because people are so interested in wrestling, to your point, well, now what the hell do you do with these kids? Because everybody that they would learn from is gone.
And that it's tough, you know what I mean? And it's like look at the guys that like a Kevin Owens, okay? Like how long did he wrestle? You know, like 15 years on the independents or something. You know what I
Right.
mean? Chris Hero, 20 plus years.
None of them were who they were 3 years in.
Right. So it takes that's what people don't understand. Like it takes a long time, and yet some of these guys have gotten signed at a very quick pace. But it's like, it's something's got to give here. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
like this could potentially really hurt the growth of just new wrestlers.
Sounds like Duke's going to have a lot of storylines here in the next 3 to 5 years.
No, because much like Tito Santana and Honky Tonk Man, I'm not 40 years old anymore.
You don't think you're going to get a big offer?
No, I'm not counting on that. I'm gonna keep doing the day job.
And okay, so here's another thing that just is also kind of happening that I've experienced. Getting having talks with certain guys and stuff. Like, say you're one of those guys that's been wrestling for a long time, and you have not gotten an offer. It's causing a lot of mental anguish on a lot of guys right now, because it's like, hey, I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing it at a pretty good level. And it's like, if you're one of those guys that is not getting an offer, it's having a really bad impact on guys mentally. Like, I've gotten some text messages from people, and it's like, I don't know what to say, because it's like, yeah, you are good, but I don't know if you're going to be $100,000 contract good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know.
And then it kind of becomes, should I keep doing this?
Exactly. And it becomes
Well, then what else do I do?
And it becomes kind of like an anti, what is it, anti-motivator? Like, what's the opposite? Is that
Demotivator.
demotivator? There you go.
Yeah.
That's what you're here for. And so that's another thing that's happening. There's so much going on that it's so hard to analyze.
Well, and the flip side of that is a lot of those guys who maybe they weren't signed before, but they're good enough, but it was an age thing. To your point of this younger grouping being signed up very quickly at any quick show of solid talent, these other promotions need somebody of veteran status for those guys to work with and still develop. So you might have some of them, grabbing some of these older guys just so they have them to work with. Or
AEW
just
signed Billy Gunn. You know what I mean? Just for that, there's just there's
like a Chris Hero signing, I guess, for NXT. I mean, he's an older guy who's out there for such a long time.
Yeah, he's he's probably like a player coach. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? That's another thing that they're gonna sign. Assets like that are gonna get signed up. You know what I mean? So it's like all the independent wrestling promoters are just kind of sitting here okay, what are we gonna do? Because you can't make a plan. You can't make a plan for 2 months from now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's
making a plan right now has to be harder than it was 2 years ago, than it was 4 years ago.
You can make a plan, but it's not going to be with the people that you wanted to make it with.
right. So it's I got I'm trying to book attractions. This is how I'm doing it. Is we have dates through June, and I'm trying to book one attraction that I feel is still going to be available in the next 5 months. I'm trying to book an attraction for every date that we have, and then I'm going to fill in the blanks when I could figure out how to fill in the blanks.
I've been off Twitter for about a couple hours now. Has AEW signed New Jack yet?
Well, I don't know if I want to go down that road. I don't think that's an attraction road I want to go down.
So, I mean, not just yourself. We obviously are already taking this time off. Well, before I even ask that question, the other thing too is then the basis of this podcast is you create a card. We're supposed to have a show. Well, the card is going to change. That's a whole other impact to this too. Is now you don't have a bunch of guys to pull from.
Well, and that's why we're doing this thing like the AIW talent tryout. You know what I mean? And February. You know, it's like maybe there are some diamonds in the roughs that are out there, you know, that just haven't been able to get.
Well, you can't be aware of every promotion that exists in the U.S.
But I mean,
sometimes you need to put yourself out there so that those guys will come to you.
But I mean, like, it's pretty, like, talent is talent. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And like, sometimes there might be a guy that's like the greatest wrestler in the world, but like he just hasn't gotten on the right
He's
show.
in North Dakota.
Yeah.
And nobody,
Right.
you know,
That's what
nobody
I'm
knows
saying.
who
Yeah.
he is.
So I mean, that's
I thought
why
you hated the phrase "diamond in the rough."
me.
Yeah.
No, I never said that.
Oh,
It's not me.
somebody else I'm thinking of.
Not me, brother.
It's not me either.
But so you know, that's why we're doing stuff like that. Like I'm trying to be proactive and at least have some, you know, like try, you know.
If you're, let's say you're sitting down in a panel of promoters, do you kind of sit there and advise them like, yeah, hey guys, maybe we should all take the next couple months off just to see how this thing shakes out?
No, I mean, because at that point, that's just you waving the white flag already. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, I just wanted to take.
We always take this.
I wanted to take January off. We didn't take it off last year because Ray Rowe. But like,
Yeah.
I wanted a breather just to have a breather. You know.
Well, there's a number of reasons to take January off as well.
For us,
especially living
yeah.
in the Northeast. Weather is so unpredictable. So you book a show, snowstorm hits, half your card's gone, half the crowd doesn't want to come, and that's happened before with you guys.
Yeah.
As well, January is a tough bag as well because you have exactly. That's what I just said. Everybody just spent all their money on the holidays. They need that month or so to catch back up and reset themselves.
Yeah. Plus, from our perspective, though, you have Hell on Earth, which is there's a lot of. I won't say everything culminates, but there's some mid-year culmination at Hell on Earth, and then usually once we get going again is when you start
the build to Absolution.
rounding out, you know, starting to see Absolutions take shape, you know, and that's usually in February.
And it's like
March.
I can't even do that.
Yeah.
No, you know, like I can't. I have no plan at all.
There's so much uncertainty, as John was saying, with guys getting signed, guys having exclusives, who's going to be where, who's going to show up where, no one knows.
And like the venue thing threw a fucking wrench and everything.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, Ethan Page has been a regular for fucking years. Well, by the time I got the dates ironed out, he had been booked already for every single one of the dates. So it's like, you got to deal with that too. You know, like there's more promotions running and there's less guys like an Ethan Page available right now to where, you know, he's going to get eaten up quick. And he did, you know, and like, this is just kind of the beginning of how this is all gonna play out.
Is it helpful that all this is coming to light at the very beginning of the year? If you had to pick a time to find all this out,
You know, I had heard about it before, but you know, the more and like I guess maybe I'm privy to stuff a little bit more in advance than is reported. Maybe I don't know.
You have sources.
I do have some sources, rumor thorn, but you know, it's I don't, you know what I mean? You can't prepare for it as much as you could sit here and say you're prepared. Like, how can you prepare? How can you be prepared for, you know, MJF and Joey Janela getting, you know, huge ass contract offers in, you know, the beginning of January, or Britt Baker, you know what I mean? Or,
Right.
You know what I mean? Who knows who else?
This is a random thought I had too.
this will be
Obviously, AEW is going to be all tight with pro wrestling tees. I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, Young Bucks, pro wrestling tees, all that. So everyone has their downside guarantees plus their pro wrestling tees stores, which per shirt like pay way the fuck more than the WWE fucking shirt sale.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
So that's like fucking kind of nuts too.
now we're getting into a whole thing to where like, who knows if AEW absorbs all of that income and then you get a percentage. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know because
We got $7 versus
We
like,
don't-
you know, fucking 28 cents.
or like if you can't release a shirt anymore and it's all got to be through the AEW store.
Because
you know
I
what
doubt AEW is going to look at that and say, "Well, we don't need any of that money. You
I mean,
guys,
that's a way to
you
also
guys keep
save
doing what
on
you're
the
doing."
fucking paychecks, though. I mean, I'd say.
But like, dude, if you get $7 billion, like, who gives a fuck about paying a guy $7? You know what I mean?
Because
Like,
if you can take more, it's gonna help you out in the long run. You're gonna facilitate
Yeah.
like they're
Continuation of
like
business.
as much as they have a lot of money, they're gonna want to see return on investment.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, who knows though? Like you just brought up an interesting thing. I don't know, and like
Because if everyone
sure-
gets keep that, then like that right there, and then getting TV exposure on top of that with fucking, if they do like a pro wrestling tease like tie-in, I could be like some major bucks. For,
I mean, let's just let's
wait
just
and see thing.
let's just put things in perspective. Like Joey Janela and the Duke probably are coming in at the same net worth right now. You know what I mean? Like
I still make more money than he does.
I don't know. You don't know that. You don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know what he makes.
We don't know.
I know what I make, so I'm
Holy
gonna,
shit,
I'm gonna
holy
go ahead.
Especially if he gets pro wrestling teams.
guys,
going.
I know I said I'd never leave, but I just got a text. Someone's starting a new company. They're partnering with the TikTok app.
I don't know what the fuck
It's
you're talking
called
about.
Is that like
Guys
TikTok
Great
Tavern?
Wrestling. Steve Guy,
What's up?
fucking double crossing Thorne, starting your own goddamn promotion.
Working angles.
It's fucked up, man.
But yeah, I mean, so this is just a lot of like speculation, I guess, on this podcast and unknown and uncertainty. But that's really the thought process that's going on right now, and I'm sure I am not the only one that is sitting here with no fucking idea what to do.
I mean, I'm not sure what the color scheme is for GGW, but I will bleed them.
Shut the fuck
Appreciate
up.
that.
He's really running with this ball. I'm not sure where he's going with it, but he's running with it.
You and me worldwide. See, you move even closer to him, and that's what happens.
I guess. He gets sucked into that world,
Yeah.
that weird nebula that he lives
He
in.
starts to feel a loyalty to you. He just senses that you're in the general area, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna make this work."
Well, no, because you also, I mean, I didn't know it was you until tonight, but yeah.
Well-
you're ready to bring out the Fleetwood Mac incidental recording budget that I need. You know, in the 70s, they used to have, like, some, like, money tucked aside for certain products so that artists could record better.
I got him at a good rate. Say that.
About 80 grand.
This is taking a turn.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, look, a lot
really
of
sure what's going
a
on
lot
right
of a lot
taking
of
a
you out
turn.
there were asking us questions, and it's hard to obviously sit there and tweet back to you or message or even on a comment on a post. So hopefully this summed up what we know, which essentially is nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like everyone asks a lot of questions. Is like nobody knows how this is
gotta
going to
wait and
play out. Like some people say one thing, other people say another thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like, you know what I mean? And it's like I'm not gonna dig too hard on and be like, hey, what does your contract say?
Well,
You know what
that's
I
the thing.
mean?
You
Like
don't want to put them in weird situations.
it's it's all new. You know what I mean? Like we gotta wait and see.
Yeah. So that'll do it here on this episode of The Card is Going to Change for the Duke.
Oh, shit.
For Worldwide, for Dom Greeny.
I just got fired.
He's
Ran
still
your
running with it.
company already folded.
Ran your mouth a little too much. For John Thorne,
They went back to your old tweets. They had to let you go.
Yeah, well, the shoot interview's coming, Pally. I didn't sign an NDA.
my name's Steve Guy.
See you in hell, Steve Guy.
We'll talk to you guys next week here on AIW's The Card is Going to Change.
I don't know what that was all about.